afternoon and looking at an album by, how do you say that, Desiree I Ain't Movin' from 1994. This was pretty big in New Zealand. She's a British artist. I guess you'd call her R&B, modern soul, pop, kind of a combination of all that stuff together. And the song that probably most people know by is that one that says on the sticker there, "You Gotta Be." You Gotta Be. I'm advertising something. You Gotta Be has been used in all sorts of things, ads, and it was used in an ad campaign here. I remember in the late '90s, but I can't remember what they were advertising. But it was used for a lot of different things, and it's one of those songs I call a supermarket song, where you still hear it played in places like supermarkets nowadays. It was used in a few movies as well, I think. So yeah, it's one of those songs that's kind of in within popular consciousness because it's being played as background music in lots of things that maybe people don't even realize, like TV ads and things. I like that song. Might not be particularly a cool song, yeah, considered cool by some people, but I like it. I think it's got it's an I suppose it's intended to be like kind of an uplifting song. The other one there, "I Feel So High," that apparently she recorded for her first album. This was her second album, '94. She had another album, I think, in '91, and that was on her first album. But as they often do, because she hit with "You Gotta Be," they re-released some of the songs on an updated version of her second album to kind of capitalize, like, oh, here's some other songs you might be interested in. I think on the US pressing they did that, and also I think it was a re-release. I believe this might be the re-release. Not entirely sure. 94, no, maybe not. Maybe this is an Australian pressing, so maybe they did that the same as they did with the US pressing there. Another reason people, excuse me, might know Desiree is from The Office. David Brent referenced her twice in the job interview. What was the job interview or the interview scene? Where he, money don't make my world go around. Was that song on here? Higher Ground, I think, is the song. He's got a quote written on his wall. "Money don't make my world go round. I'm reaching out to a higher ground." And then he sings it. And then another one, another scene, I think it was in the pub quiz episode. He's outside singing, drunk, Life, Life, oh Life, which I think is by Desiree in a later album, the late '90s. So maybe Ricky Gervais is a fan of Desiree. But yeah, this is a kind of a very typical find of what you come across in secondhand shops. Things that were popular in the 1990s and the early 2000s in the age of the CD, and were bought. This charted at number 9 in New Zealand, the album, which is the highest in the world. I think it got to 13 in the UK, and a few other countries similar kind of low teens. But New Zealand was the highest charting country for her for this album. So that means she would have sold 10,000 at least, a few tens of thousands. And of course, what happens? People buy it, they listen to it. Nowadays, very few people listen to CDs because you don't even really sell CD players anymore, do they? Computers and laptops don't have CD drives in them. So the typical person is not listening to CDs anymore. And so what do people do? They're cleaning out their house. They're getting rid of some of the stuff, some of the old furniture. They see a cabinet full of CDs. They think, oh, we can free up some space there. They take it down to the local charity shop. And thus we are presented with stacks of things like Des'ree and other things that were big in the 90s and the early 2000s. Especially the early 2000s, there's a real glut. I think I've talked before, things like Robbie Williams, Susan Boyle. There's a pop opera singer here from New Zealand called Hayley Westerner. A lot of her stuff. I'd say those three there would be the most common CD. Unfortunately, I don't like any of them. Don't really enjoy any of those artists. I do have one Robbie Williams CD, I think Greatest Hits. But I remember listening through to that and thinking, why did I buy this? There isn't really one song I like on it. Like that song Angels is okay, but I can't see ever a point in my life ever listening to that CD again. So anyway, so we got the lyrics. Looks like she had some co-writers. One body, respect it. One mind, feel it. One life, enjoy it. That's very live, laugh, life. What is that? Live, laugh, love. What's that movie with Julia Roberts? Eat, pray, live. I don't know. Inspirational kind of quotes. And it looks like Ents finishes off with some liner notes. She's thanking people, her mother. Her mother, I read, was from British Guyana, which I think is in the north of South America. Is that the same place? Maybe that's the old name for Guyana, which was where Jonestown was, the cult in the 1970s. And as many people did in that area, the Caribbean, former British colonies or dependencies, immigrated to Britain in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then the second generation kids were born like Des'ree, and usually had their parents still had a connection back home, but they'd immigrated permanently to Britain, and that's why you have a lot of I guess I don't actually know the term, Caribbean British, or I guess that's it. Like you see in there a lot of top football players through the years, musical artists, actors. What's his name? Idris Elba. Is Idris Elba from there? He actually might be an African immigrant, but I'm at least second generation. But anyway, rambling a bit here, aren't I? Is that rock? I think that rock there is a shape of Africa. Maybe Africa and with Madagascar there. Actually looks more like India, to be honest, because Africa kind of has a longer coast down here, and but I can see the general stylistic vision which we was going for. So yeah, not a bad one. I would have picked this up for 50 cents. I can't remember, to be honest, because it would have been about a year or two ago that I got this. But yeah, I really like the two singles. You Gotta Be and Feel So High. Feel So High maybe I even like even more. I remember I heard I've got a compilation it was on first time, and I heard it on that, and then when I saw this, I thought, I'll get that. She's got some good songs. Anyway, thank you for watching. Take it easy.